really appreciate you coming to my office and letting me speak with you all about censorship. As probably most of you know, I was suspended or I guess banned on Twitter for 12 hours last night after, or they said it was 2 tweets that I had tweeting information that anyone can have access to on the internet, looking up and reading. Also saying things that not most, but regular Americans all over the country say, a lot of people in my district, a lot of people in Georgia, but also people from all over the country say these things. They're concerned about the vaccines that are not FDA approved. Now, my stance has been the entire time, I am for people getting the vaccine if they choose to, and I am for people not getting the vaccine if they choose to. But I think it has to be a choice and not a mandate. Not mandated by schools, not mandated by businesses, and not mandated by the government. And this is an important issue for everyone. See, right now, we have many reports of side effects from the vaccines, and according to the CDC website that anyone can look up, there are reports of over 12,000 deaths. You see, I put on my tweet 6,000, but I just checked, it's been updated, and it's over 12,000 now. And this is important information for people to know. Also, I tweeted about how obesity is one of the biggest risk factors for people with COVID-19 that leads to hospitalization and death. And this is a very important thing that I don't see enough people talking about. If we care about people and we care about their health and we care about their safety, then we should care about helping them with the #1 risk factor that could lead to hospitalization or death, and that is obesity. This is also an issue that leads to many other medical problems, as well as high costs in healthcare. So I think this is something that people should be talking about. If we're going to talk about going door to door to ask people if they've had the vaccine and offer it, then we should definitely talk to people about how to reduce obesity to get rid of that #1 risk factor. That was something I tweeted about. I also retweeted Thomas Massey, and he had put out a tweet where he had been told by members of the military that there's many members in the military that don't want to be forced to take the vaccine, and their families don't want them to be forced to take the vaccine. And I think we should respect our members of the military and how they feel about it and how their families feel about it. And that was what I had tweeted about. But here's the problem, everyone. I get banned for 12 hours for sharing this information and being willing to talk about these things because they're calling it misinformation. But yet we have Dr. Fauci, who has spread misinformation for a long time now. Quite as a matter of fact, since this has started. And his emails that came out has proven that he lied. And this is a very big issue, and it should be a big issue for every single American, not a political issue. It should be an issue to all of us, because every single one of us have been victims of COVID-19, this Chinese virus. Dr. Fauci very much was involved in funding the gain-of-function research. This is a virus that has been made. It's a man-made virus, and the proof is coming out more and more. There was a hearing today in the Senate, and I went and listened to the hearing, and I've watched a lot of the video from the hearing, and we are finding out, and it's becoming conclusive, and I think we need to see China share more information with us about COVID-19, but this very much looks to be what we would call a bioweapon. Otherwise, why would we have Dr. Fauci funding gain of function, which takes a virus that's spread from animal to animal and then turns it into a virus that can be spread from human to human? That's what a bioweapon is. And now it has sickened the countries all over the world and killed so many people. Yet Dr. Fauci is sitting up on the Greene stage and being treated as if he's some sort of hero, when in fact he played a part in funding COVID-19, and then he lied to us over and over and over. You can look back in 2020, early in the year, where he is saying on CNN that COVID-19 is going to kill millions and millions of Americans. And this is exactly how he was advising President Trump. Millions of Americans are going to die. But yet in his personal emails, he was stating that it was going to be several 100,000 people. You see, you can't say one thing in private and then advise differently in public. This man is the highest paid employee in the federal government, more than the President of the United States. Yet, he's not elected. And his words have guided this nation and how many elected officials in cities and states and our federal government has made decisions that have affected all of our lives. But my voice needs to be suspended and banned on Twitter for talking about these things? That's wrong. Do you know where this happens in the world, everyone? Communist China. When China doesn't like someone, when they don't like what they're saying, they don't like their political beliefs, and they don't agree with them, they silence them. And you know, that's what happened on Twitter. Acting like corporate communists. When we have social media platforms, when we have any kind of organization that is silencing our voices simply because they don't agree or they don't like it and they don't like the discussion, that's a violation of our First Amendment, our free speech. And as Americans, I would think that is something that we would all find to be so precious that we would all want to do everything we can to protect it. Because imagine if the shoe's on the other foot. What about when Republicans gain back control? Do you want Republicans silencing Democrats' speech? That would be wrong. We can't ever become a nation where we're silencing people because we don't agree or we don't like the questions they're asking and we're not willing to have those discussions. We're just saying what this person is saying is wrong and that's misinformation and that's not the narrative we want to go in the public. But this is where we are. Conservatives are banned, censored, and kicked off of social media every single day. Our former president, President Trump, is banned from social media everywhere because no one wants to hear his voice in the social media circles. Big tech does not like what President Trump has to say. So here we are in a place where it's getting out of control. I'm an elected member of Congress. I represent Georgia's 14th district. My voice is the elected voice for my district, but yet Twitter wants to suspend me and people all over Twitterverse are cheering and saying I should be kicked off. And this is completely wrong. Imagine this. Not too long ago, I was sued by a communist PAC for banning them from my page because of the horrible, nasty things they were saying to me on my Twitter page. And they sued me because you want to know what they said? They said that they could not see what I was saying. By being banned from my Twitter page, I was stopping their First Amendment, and they couldn't see what I was saying. Therefore, they couldn't participate. But yet Twitter suspended me for 12 hours. So you know what that really means? That bans everyone from seeing what I had to say. So what? Should this PAC sue Twitter now? Should people sue Twitter because they're banning my voice? You see, it's a hypocrisy. And these are the things that we can't allow to stand. I will not stop speaking. I will not stop tweeting. I will not stop posting. I will not stop asking questions. Because if you have members of Congress that aren't asking questions, then I don't know what kind of country we're going to have. But the reason why I am promoting this Fire Fauci Act is because we have a federal government employee that has lied, and it is public record this man has lied. Senator Rand Paul talked about it today in the hearing, in the Senate hearing. But yet he is still running the show as if he is center stage, and that is a problem. You see, in the private world, when people lie and they mislead people in their jobs, they get fired. All of you are members of the press and you work for media companies, and if you were to lie on the job and you were to mislead people or you were to do something wrong, and someone might argue and say you do mislead people, but your company would fire you. However, here we are, we have Dr. Anthony Fauci that just continues to keep doing his job and saying whatever he wants, but yet he funded to the Wuhan lab the gain of function research that allowed COVID-19 to become what it is, to kill people. And I think he needs to be fired. And so do millions and millions of Americans. And I think it's perfectly fine to talk about this on social media. After all, that's what social media started as, a place for people to meet, to communicate, to share thoughts and ideas. And there's nothing wrong with it. And with that, I'll go ahead and let you guys ask some questions.
In that same vein, Congresswoman, do you think that you should resign for misleading people about
Identify yourself
coronavirus?
after the question.
Jackie Alamany from the Washington Post.
Okay, no, I think that's absurd. I have not misled anyone. I've not put out misinformation. So no, that I would not.
You had tweeted
even
over the
consider
weekend
it.
that coronavirus was not dangerous for people under the age of 65 who are not obese, which is factually inaccurate.
You know what? There's all kinds of things that are dangerous for people under 65 and not obese. Car accidents are dangerous. The flu is dangerous. Pneumonia is dangerous. There's many things that are dangerous for people under 65 and who people that are not obese. I was talking about the highest amount of deaths, the highest risk factors is for the older people and the people that fall into obesity. And those are the facts that you can simply look up.
Are you worried though that your rhetoric
Yeah,
is...
just on to the forms. What's your reaction to the House Ethics Committee rejecting your appeal of the mask fine?
Well, number one, 4 out of 5 of the Democrats on that committee have their name on a resolution to expel me from Congress. And so when I went in for that hearing, I asked for them to recuse themselves, which I don't know if they did recuse themselves because they didn't produce a record of their vote. So that is something I would like to find out, because I think it's wrong. If they're signing a resolution to expel me, then they shouldn't be the people voting on the committee. I think that's definitely a conflict of interest. Yes.
Alex Nazarian, Yahoo News. Did President Trump lie when he said the election was stolen from him?
That we're here talking about my tweets, we're talking about Twitter suspensions, we're talking about Anthony Fauci, and I'm looking forward to all of the election audits to see what happened. There's a lot of evidence, you know, thousands of people have signed their name on saying at risk of perjury in court, saying that they witnessed election fraud, and I think those people should be heard. Yes.
Hey, Robert Draper with New York Times. How many times now over the last 4 years have you been suspended or banned from a social media company?
That is a very good question. I don't remember the exact count.
Voice of God.
A lot. I think it's been 3 times on Twitter this year.
4 times, I think, now.
4 times now. Multiple times on Facebook. I think one time was like 30 days on Facebook. Yeah,
So it's
did it.
yeah. Is your objection to a private business doing what they're doing like this, that they should not be allowed to establish these kinds of rules of the road over what can and can't be said, or is your objection that they are doing it arbitrarily, only to one side rather than to all sides?
Well, you see, Twitter is. I'll speak specifically on Twitter. Here's what is just. It's hard for me to even comprehend it. Twitter is prolific with porn. There's porn all over Twitter. There are all kinds of people all over Twitter. We have leaders in foreign countries. Many people all over the world are on Twitter, but it seems to be the only people they heavily censor and ban are conservative Americans. And this is an American company. So this is why conservative Americans are always outraged and appalled at why are we the only ones censored and banned when Twitter's a platform that has disgusting porn, it has had terrorists, it has had all kinds of criminals,
But
all
do you
kinds
think
of
those
people.
things should be banned also?
It's had people talking about killing President Trump. I mean, these are any kind. If anyone is threatening to kill a president, why would they have a Twitter page?
Right.
But yet, if I tweet about talking about COVID-19 or people are concerned about the vaccines, I get suspended
So
for
it's not so
12
much that they
hours.
shouldn't ban people, it's that it's hypocritical and arbitrary, the means by which they're doing so, is that what you're saying? Or-
It's very targeted, it's political, and it's very obvious, and it's obvious to everyone. They target, ban, and censor conservative Americans.
Have you been warned at all from Twitter about being banned permanently? Because you said this is like your 4th time and you keep posting things that Twitter says is, you know, violating its rules. Are you worried about a permanent ban?
I don't think we've gotten a notification for that. I don't believe we've gotten that one, Tia. Yeah, yes.
How many Democratic co-sponsors do you have on the Fauci-lied bill?
No Democrat
No Democrat.
co-sponsors. No Democrat co-sponsors, no.
Have you gotten
Hi, Emily Brooks, Washington Examiner. I was wondering, given the possibility of being permanently banned out there, is there any alternative free speech like social media platform that you like or would gravitate to, like Parler or Getter, and would you recommend President Trump joining one of those?
I don't, you know what, I don't have a personal favorite of mine. Since I've been a member of Congress, it's hard to really explore them completely. I think President Trump right now finds that putting out his statements via email works really well because everyone's sharing them everywhere. For him, that works really well. And I hadn't really thought past the fact that Twitter just shouldn't censor and ban people of what I might do. Yes.
Aaron Navarro, CBS News. Whip Scalise said today he got vaccinated, citing this Delta variant was going around, and said he's confident that it's safe and effective. 2 questions. Have you yourself gotten vaccinated, and do you disagree with the Republican whip?
Well, your first question is a violation of my HIPAA rights. You see, with HIPAA rights, we don't have to reveal our medical records, and that also involves our vaccine records.
And do you disagree with Whip Scalise when he says he's confident the vaccine is safe and effective?
Oh, no, I don't disagree with him. I just think it should be everyone's choice. That is what I've been saying. No one should be discriminated against because they choose to not get the vaccine. And I don't believe people should be discriminated against for choosing not to wear masks. But I will tell you something I absolutely do disagree with. I disagree with the recommendation for children to be wearing masks. I think that is completely wrong. Children, especially young children, need to see adults' faces. They need to see each other's faces. This is what helps them learn emotion and expression. It's how they play and talk with one another. It helps them phonetically. It helps them with their speech. And I think it's more harmful, specifically harmful to children, for them to wear masks. And our kids are healthy. Most children are extremely healthy. And most children are not at risk of having serious problems or death from COVID-19.
And on Twitter, have you been in contact with them in terms of appealing this latest ban?
I have not been in contact with them yet. I've tried to contact them in the past, and I don't really get any response.
Congresswoman Leader McConnell said today that he wanted to encourage everybody to get a vaccine and to ignore all of those other voices that are giving demonstrably bad advice. Do you encourage your constituents to get vaccinated?
I encourage people to make up their own mind. And again, it's each person's individual choice, and I think it's very important to keep it that way, and also make sure no one is discriminated against. I don't believe in discrimination on any grounds, whether it's race, religion, sexual preferences, mask, vaccines, whatever. I just don't believe in discrimination.
Are you worried that not encouraging people to get vaccinated is causing people to make harmful decisions that will ultimately lead in more death?
No, I'm not worried about that at all. I'm encouraging people to make up their own mind.
But aren't you
But
also
Congresswoman-
discouraging them by spreading misinformation? You said that 6,000 deaths are related to the vaccine, and that's not backed up by science.
Well, actually, on the CDC website, Tia, and I really hope you
I
look
know,
it up.
I looked it up. It says
says
that
right
people
here-
died after the vaccine, but not necessarily
Right,
that the
it says during
vaccine
this time-
caused it.
That's the same thing with
VAERS
COVID.
received 12,313 reports of death among people who received a COVID-19 vaccine.
But that doesn't mean the vaccine caused it,
But it may
Representative.
mean that it caused it. We don't know, and I think this needs to be investigated. I
But
think
if
it's important to investigate it, don't you?
The
Don't
question
we wanna
is,
know the truth?
the question
As
is,
a
but
journalist, you definitely wanna know the truth, right? So you can report that, because after all, you're reporting a lot of information, which means what you report makes you responsible as well.
in the question, the Twitter tagged your tweet that said the vaccine caused death as misinformation. Are you
That's
spreading
Twitter.
misinformation?
Is Twitter the CDC? I don't believe so. I don't think Twitter is in charge of our government, is it? I think you need to analyze the angle you're coming from. Twitter is not in charge of what information is correct and what information is incorrect. And you see, that's another problem, because Twitter is declaring itself the judge of whose voice is right and whose voice is wrong. But wouldn't it be appropriate for us to investigate these 12,000 deaths and find out, did the vaccine cause their death? What else caused their death? What exactly happened there before the FDA approves this vaccine?
Tommy,
I think
Tommy,
we need to investigate.
you've called the
Yes.
vaccine experimental. You've pointed out the deaths, the side effects. You've said just say no. President Trump, who you are allies with, you're very loyal to him. He has said the vaccine is saving the world. He's gotten it. He's called it safe and effective. He has almost never disparaged it or called it experimental. To what do you account for this disparity between the two of you, who agree on just about everything?
We're not in disagreement. So I call it experimental because that is exactly how it's labeled. It is labeled for experimental use. So that term is correct. It's what everyone's calling it. That is the type of use that's in, because it's not FDA approved. President Trump should be proud of the accomplishment that his administration made, along with Vice President Pence. They worked very hard on this, and it was a miracle for them to come up with a vaccine in such a short amount of time. But what I am saying is it shouldn't be forced. It shouldn't be mandated. Information needs to be found out. There are reports of side effects. There are obviously reports of deaths. And I think these are important things to check out before it's FDA approved. But here we have colleges requiring students to be vaccinated before students can return to college. I mean, we just had this young lady that lost her scholarship. I believe it was $200,000 scholarship over at Brigham Young, and she's losing her scholarship because she doesn't want to get the vaccine. Her doctor said it would put her in high risk because of a medical condition that she currently has. There was a 13-year-old boy in Michigan that just recently died after taking the vaccine. You see, there's a lot of things happening, and I think it's important for us to analyze all of it before governments and schools and businesses say, absolutely, you have to take this vaccine. It shouldn't be mandated, and people shouldn't be treated wrongly or judged harshly because they are just saying, I don't want to take the vaccine.
But why do you think President Trump, who's the leader of your political movement, why do you think he hasn't come out and said, I don't think people should be forced to take the vaccine? He hasn't come out and said, be careful of the side effects, be careful, it's experimental. He's just said, this is a good thing, this is a big accomplishment on my part, you should take the vaccine. Why is he not highlighting the same issue?
I think you have to ask him that question. That's not for me to answer. Yes,
So
ma'am.
when it gets to a point where it is fully FDA approved and not experimental, at that point, will you be okay with the mandates for vaccines? Will you encourage people to get it?
I'm going to always be in the camp of it should be people's choice. I just think it should be their choice. I just think we're going down a really bad road when we're telling people you have to do this, and if you don't do it, you're excluded. You're treated like a second-class citizen. You're not allowed on campus. You're going to be fired from your job. We're not going to let you in church because you refuse to take this FDA-approved vaccine. I just think that's the wrong place for us to go as Americans.
Well, there are a lot of
That's-
other vaccines
So
that are also mandated.
that's one issue, the mandates.
Mhm.
But is it a separate issue that the health side effects of the vaccines? I mean, do you believe, knowing what you know now, do you think that it was inadvisable of the administration to release these vaccines without FDA approval?
I don't think so. I think, this is an extraordinary times.
Right.
I don't want to criticize anyone's judgment there. This is certainly a pandemic we've never had before. And it's also a virus was developed, unfortunately, through our tax dollars, through Dr. Fauci, and made in a Wuhan lab, and the purpose of it seems to be a bioweapon. Now, the questions I think we should be asking is not only like we need to analyze the side effects and why are these deaths being reported, we also need to ask China a lot of questions.
Do you think they'll tell us?
I would handle China a lot differently. I certainly would not allow anyone involved with the CCP in our colleges and universities. I would not give student visas to people and to any students that are loyal to the CCP. I certainly would not allow Chinese businesses to function inside of our country if they're loyal to the CCP. And I would demand for China to tell us what is the protocol that you've developed when it comes down to COVID-19. And then secondly, China, how many other bioweapons do you have? What are they? And what are you planning to do with them? See, I think these are the questions all of us should be asking, because China really is our common enemy. And we should look at China very much through those eyes, and at least through Republicans and Democrats. I would hope to God we can come together.
But given that, you don't expect a level, would you? Do you? I mean, even if we prevented CCP members from going to our colleges, do you think they'd say, oh, okay, yeah, all right, now we'll tell you?
Well, China's long-term goal is they want to be the #1 country in the world. They want to dominate us economically. They want to dominate our military. They want to dominate us in every single way. And that is what they're trying to do.
Right.
And if America, if our government, if all of us together don't get serious about who China is and what their goals are, then we're the fools, aren't we? And we really would be foolish to ignore this great threat. And so in my eyes, I think, I take people at their word. China seriously wants to dominate the entire world. When Joe Biden is talking about adapting the Green New Deal and moving towards those policies and saying we're gonna cut down our carbon emissions down to net zero, do you know what China is saying? They're saying they're going to increase their carbon emissions. You wanna know why? Because they want to grow their economy much bigger than ours. That is a very foolish road for us to go down. And so my encouragement is to everyone, Republicans, Democrats, all of us Americans, we seriously need to take a hard look at China and get on the same page and stop this threat. That how many other bioweapons are there? What other things would they do? What links would they go to dominate the entire world?
But are you saying, people think it may have escaped from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, but you're saying it didn't escape, that they made a weapon?
That's not what I said.
But you
That's
just said
not what I
bioweapon.
said. No, yeah, I said that it was developed to be a bioweapon, but I did not say what you just said. You're trying to put words in my
Okay,
mouth.
well, can you explain what happened to the bioweapon?
I think China needs to explain it.
But what do you believe may have happened?
I wasn't there, so I think China needs to explain
If they
it.
were
China
developing,
owes us answers.
maybe developing as a bioweapon, but it somehow accidentally escapes. In other words, those two aren't mutually exclusive.
I think there needs to be serious investigations, and we need to tell China, look, we need to tell them, if you do not come clean and tell the truth and tell the entire world what happened with this, then America is responsible to have some sort of tariffs are a great way to deal with China. They care about money and business. They want their students in our country. Send them back. Send these people back out of our colleges. Stop them. We should stop their ability to fund our universities. We should put rules in place to protect our country until China is willing to be honest and truthful. I think that's what we should do. As parents, I don't know what kind of parents everyone else, or even if you have children, there's consequences when your kids do something wrong. And if you don't make consequences, then you raise children that don't understand that. So if our dealings with China and any other country in the world is that we just lay down and let them do whatever they want, well, I don't think we're gonna be able to handle that very well. It's just not a good way, it's not good policy.
Congresswoman, do you accept that over 600,000 Americans have died as a result of the coronavirus?
Of course I do.
So how do you take into account that death rates have plummeted since the vaccine has gone into circulation? that the only people who have now been in hospitals and who have mostly been hospitalized are people who have not been vaccinated?
I think it's a big combination of herd immunity, right? And there's how many millions of people, is it 30-something million, I believe? I apologize, I have to look the number up, that were tested positive for COVID-19. And that happened before everyone was vaccinated. So we've got millions and millions of people who developed immunity naturally, and then we're getting millions and millions of people that are developing immunity through the vaccine. Again, I'm not denying any truth. I'm just saying it should be a choice. That's all I'm saying. It should be a choice. And no one should treat anyone bad because, or discriminate against them or reject them from a school or a business or anything just because they're choosing to allow their body to develop natural immunity. There's nothing wrong with that.
But to go back to your original, why we're here, you were not suspended from Twitter for saying the vaccine should be a choice. That
Okay,
is not
Tia,
what
why
vaccine-
was I suspended then?
Because they said your tweets contained misinformation about the vaccine itself. not
Where
your
was the
opinion.
misinformation?
Well, according to Twitter, it was in that tweet that said 6,000 deaths were caused by the vaccine. Again, I just want to
You're
make
right, because the number went up and I checked it today and it's over 12,000.
But again, the question that I have for you is it right for you to put out not just your opinion about who should and shouldn't be vaccinated, but you're putting out information about the vaccine that is being labeled
Okay,
as
so
misleading?
is it right for him to flip and flop and say different things all the time? Is that right? But yet he's still the head guy and the one everybody's listening to. So let me just say this. Tony Fauci, I don't know if he has a Twitter page, I don't even look. Has he ever been suspended or banned on Twitter for flipping and flopping and giving different information? What about the fact that he's lied and it's proven in his emails? Has everyone got him saying, you know, we can't have you on social media, we can't put you on the news, you shouldn't be on CNN, you shouldn't be in the AJC, you shouldn't be anywhere because you lied, Dr. Fauci. We don't see that, do we? No. Okay, I got it wrong. 6,000 was wrong according to CDC. It's reporting over 12,000.
You also claimed that defeating obesity is going to protect people from the coronavirus. Do you still believe that?
Obesity is known to be the highest risk factor. Like 78% of people that were hospitalized and died were obese. And that is part of the statistics and the data. Yes, I believe if we can reduce obesity, I think we are going to help people be protected from COVID-19. We're also going to help them be protected from a host of many, many other problems. I think that's a good thing, don't you? Yes.
What are your proposals to reduce obesity?
Well, I used to own a gym, exercise and eating healthy. Those actually work, and they're maybe not fun to eat healthy all the time and exercise a lot. Not everybody likes it, but it actually works. It reduces obesity. Even walking a lot every day. There's been great stories. I don't know if you've seen them. A lot of people have been talking about how during the shutdowns they walked a lot and they lost a lot of weight. These are great things. Those are success stories. So I would love to see, instead of investing an unknown amount of money in big government health care, I would love for us to invest in, especially our kids. If our kids in school are raised with great healthy eating habits and good exercise programs, that's teaching kids to become adults with good lifelong
I think
habits.
First Lady Michelle Obama had
That's right. Yeah, she did. Yeah.
I just wanted
So-
to clarify, when it comes to acquiring vaccines for things like colleges and schools, is that your position on all vaccines? Because a lot of them are mandated for a lot of people.
But people can also say, due to religious reasons, they can choose not to take vaccines. And I think it's really, it's people's choice. It definitely should be a choice. And we also have to remember, we're talking about a virus that I think it's nearly around 99% of people survive it. And so thank God for that, right? So what I'm saying is, it's not wrong to say it should be people's choice. And it doesn't make someone a bad person because they don't want to take the vaccine. It doesn't make them a bad person because they don't want to wear a mask. And they're not responsible for other people's health. Because when we start going down that road, then where does it end? That means if we say people are responsible for spreading COVID-19, then we're saying people are responsible for spreading every kind of germ there is. And that's an impossibility. We can't live in a world where we are actually blaming people for causing anyone else to get sick. We've never lived that way in any time of history that I know of. And I think that's dangerous.
Do you feel any responsibility for keeping people in Georgia safe? You know, there are children, skinny people who have died of the coronavirus. Do you feel any responsibility
Gee,
to the
you
people
crack
of
me
Georgia?
up. You know what? I think people's responsibility is their own to read the information, and it's everywhere. You can't go by any street corner practically and not see something about COVID-19. I believe in people's own individual responsibility to read, to find out, and to make their own decision.
Do you believe in science though?
I believe in God, and of course there is science. I don't worship science or think that science rules everything. I believe that God rules everything.
Congresswoman Marie Newman called you a deeply broken person and hoped that you would get some help. Do you have any response to this?
I think my colleague, Democrat Marie Newman, that is across the hall from me, should probably get some help herself, because she's the one that attacked me on a video by planting a flag out there in the hallway, but starting on my nameplate. You see, she started that. You do understand that, right? She started by a video on my nameplate, and then it pans to her where in a militant fashion she plants a flag. But you know, and then she talks about her biological son, who she calls her daughter. And she talks about she wants her son to be able to go in women's bathrooms and have all the same rights as women. But you know what? I have daughters too. And I don't want men in my daughter's bathroom. What about our rights? Don't you believe in your rights, our women's rights? And we don't need biological men taking over and conquering women like they are trying to do in sports and in our bathrooms and in rape crisis centers and pregnancy and having babies. No, biological men do not get pregnant, and they do not have babies, and they are not birthing people. Mothers give birth.
Talk about
And mothers
science.
are biological women.
Talk about science.
Yeah, that's science, right. There's 2 sets of chromosomes. If you want to believe in science, 2 sets of chromosomes, and that's perhaps something that Marie Newman should explore.
Why then not repeat the science when it comes to the coronavirus if you're able to believe in it when it comes to the issue
Right.
of being transgender?
I have. There's reported side effects and there's reports of death, and I'm saying those should be investigated. But I'm also caring about our individual rights, which we as Americans have, and we should really appreciate.
Those are those
that's
statistically
right.
Since we're veering slightly off topic, it's,
Yes.
did you speak to Leader McCarthy about wanting to be on the January 6th committee?
Yes, I did.
I saw you handing out pieces of paper a couple weeks ago during the January 6th vote to Republican members. Was that to you, was that basically a message asking them to?
No, that had something to do totally with another bill. Yeah, no, it wasn't about.
What do you think?
Back to this, the White House last week admitted or said that they're tracking social media websites and flagging anything that they deemed inappropriate or misinformation and relaying that back to the social media companies. One, should the government be doing that to the American people? And 2, do you think you were a victim of possibly somebody that's tracking your website?
Number one, no, I do not believe that the Biden administration or the government should be working with social media to decide whose pages that they should, about COVID-19, that they should shut down. I don't know if it was my page or not. Maybe, perhaps that's why my Twitter page got suspended, but I think that had to do with Facebook. And I think it's a dangerous place when you have the government saying, these people need to go, these people need to go, these people need to go, but yet they're unwilling to look maybe in other places and say, oh, this, we think that Antifa and BLM riots are bad. That's what a lot of Republicans and conservatives care about. We care about the damage and the billions of dollars and the cities that were burned and targeted, and police officers and monuments and federal buildings. We care about those things, but we aren't seeing that talked about. It's hard to imagine that most of the time those were called peaceful protests. But as far as the Biden administration, telling Facebook what they should and shouldn't do, I think that's a big problem. Just like Facebook telling conservatives what they should and shouldn't say, or kicking them off their platform is also a big problem. So
Two more questions, Two more
Have you
questions.
requested an audience with any of you?
Yes.
Hugo Lowe with The Guardian. Would you be able to shed some light into your conversation with Leader McCarthy about the January 6th Select Committee and whether it was receptive to your request?
We just talked briefly, and he asked me why I wanted to serve on it, and I had just told him that I was interested in serving on the January 6th committee because I didn't want to see another witch hunt, and that's what the Russian collusion conspiracy, that all of that was nothing but a witch hunt, and now we know that that didn't happen, and I believe that we're at risk of that happening again with this January 6th committee, and those were my concerns, and that's why I wanted to serve on there.
Do you think you made good picks for the committee, McCarthy?
I hope so. We'll see.
Well, he's announced his picks. He's got Jim Jordan, Jim Banks, Troy Nels. I mean, presumably you would have liked to have seen yourself on the committee as well.
Of course. I'm just saying I hope they do a good job. I hope so.
The people who are wearing yellow stars in protest of vaccinations, what message do you have for them?
I haven't seen that. I'm sorry. I don't know anything about that. Well, we're done.
Yeah, I think we're getting ready to go vote, and she needs to be briefed.